We are learning chilling new details about the suspect in the deadly attack in New Orleans. The FBI labeling the horrific incident an evil act of terrorism. They no longer believe that other people are involved. Authorities also recovered 2 functional IEDs in the area of the attack stashed inside coolers. The FBI also revealed that they do not believe there is a link between the New Orleans attack and the Cybertruck explosion that happened outside of Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. They are, however, investigating whether that incident is also an act of terror. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Molly Line. Joining me, Dagan McDowell, Fox Business anchor and co-host of The Bottom Line on Fox Business. Cheryl Casoni, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business. And Rebecca Heinrichs, Hudson Institute Senior Fellow, and Paul Morrow, Fox News contributor, attorney, founder of OpsDesk.org, and retired NYPD inspector. The FBI also revealing that the terror suspect declared his support for ISIS on videos posted online just hours before the deadly rampage.
He posted several videos to an online platform proclaiming his support for ISIS. There were 5 videos posted on Jabbar's Facebook account, which are time-stamped beginning at 1:29 a.m. and the last at 3:02 a.m. In the first video, Jabbar explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote. Additionally, he stated he had joined ISIS before this summer. He also provided a will and testament.
Brooke Taylor is in Houston with the latest on all of it. Brooke.
Hi, Molly. We just got a rare look inside the trailer where he was living, and we actually got to walk around. You could see a metal fence right outside of that trailer, just completely ripped off from where the FBI and SWAT teams raided. I want to get right to that video to show you because, again, really a rare look inside since no one was living there. Neighbors say that he lived there for about a year. His mom lived here at some period. A neighbor told us that white Ford pickup truck used in the attack, well, he actually saw it himself parked outside here for one night outside of the trailer. I also managed to peek through the window where a mess could be seen inside, furniture still scattered around. We also saw chickens and sheep wandering around the property. We spoke to a neighbor next door. He said this is a close-knit Muslim community. There is a mosque about a minute away. He said that he knew Jabbar practiced his faith and prayed regularly, but he told us he was shocked to see this news, didn't see him as radicalized. Well, according to the FBI, he's a U.S. citizen from Texas, served in the Army between 2007 and 2015 as a human resource and IT specialist. Then he stayed in the Army Reserve as an IT specialist until 2020 before he was honorably discharged. The New York Post was able to actually talk to his brother. He told him that Jabbar converted to Islam when he was younger. He blames radicalization. Authorities say he was inspired by ISIS, expressed a desire to kill, as you just heard from there, and found an ISIS flag in the car. In 2020, he posted a YouTube video pitching himself as a real estate agent in the Houston area, claiming his military background would help.
I learned the meaning of great service and what it means to be responsive and take everything seriously, dotting I's and crossing T's to make sure that things go off without a hitch. So I've taken those skills and applied them to my career as a real estate agent, where I feel like what really sets me apart from other agents is my ability to be able to, one, be a fierce negotiator.
And court records show that he was having big money troubles. He was divorced twice. We read through those court documents, and he details not being able to pay for his house and being in debt, and this real estate career not working out. That neighbor that we spoke to says that he had 2 daughters and also a young son who he saw playing around and riding his bike here. And again, he said he lived here for about a year, Molly.
Brooke Taylor there where the suspect in this case was living. And I want to highlight some of the things we just learned out of this press conference. Christopher Rea, the FBI Deputy Assistant Director, really clarifying some key things. That the suspect in this case, in the vehicle ramming attack, acted alone. That they do not believe there is a swath of suspects or a massive manhunt now underway. That this individual acted alone. Also, very important, they say they have surveillance that shows Jabbar placing items there around the French Quarter. The items specifically IEDs. So he placed them. There was not another person, another suspect that placed these items. They did acknowledge there were folks there enjoying the evening that stopped to look at some of these things, that spotted the cooler where the device had been concealed, but then continued on their way. The FBI still would like to speak with people that were there in the French Quarter in those late night, early morning hours, anyone who interacted with Jabbar, anyone who may have seen something that could be helpful to their investigation in the weeks, in the months ahead. I want to bring in Paul Morrow now. Paul, you've been with us all throughout the day yesterday and today, and finally some clarity as to where this investigation is headed. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this is some of the stuff you and I speculated about yesterday, that it didn't seem like the information relative to accomplices was very hard, and now that's gone away completely. Now, they seem to have gotten their act together down there in New Orleans regarding the messaging, right? I mean, this was a much better press conference. You had the governor there who was leading it, and then we got good, hard information from the Counterterrorism Bureau of the FBI. What's salient, as you said, is the fact that as of now, they're not looking for any active accomplices. That means they have the two devices they have the genesis of the two devices solidly. He placed them. The other thing now is they're going to be doing very heavy digital. They're going to be going through those devices. It sounds the way they said it, like they're into those devices, which means before long, we'll get a good idea of how he was radicalized.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. We want to go back to Ted Williams, who's on the ground there. We're so grateful that he was able to get there and to bring us insight. Perhaps this is a bit of a relief. The Sugar Bowl goes on today, this afternoon, and now we know there's not accomplices out there on the loose, which may have been a major concern for folks in the area. Ted, to you.
A major relief that they are not accomplices and that this guy, Jabbar, acted alone, Molly. I can tell you the city is beginning to open up. As the governor say, they cannot live in fear. And one of the things that I was happy that the government was able to say, because we've been wondering about it, he said formally that this was an act of terrorism. And I was happy that that came out. I think people in this city were wondering just what was going on. And I think this press conference clarified a great deal of what was going on. I've always said that an investigation is like a puzzle, and you're trying to put it together. And what you found here was the FBI, the federal agents, the state and local agents, they all worked together to put this puzzle together to be able to tell us, the public now, that this man acted alone, that he was a lone wolf.
Ted, what's your feeling on Bourbon Street reopening so swiftly and that area getting back to normal so quickly after this horrific attack?
You know, Molly, I think that people have to pick up their lives. Sadly, 14 souls lost their life here in this area of Bourbon Street. But I think the mayor and the city is right. They need to reopen the city at this time. They have done all of the crime scene work that they needed to do. And so I think it's the right and proper decision.
The other thing I wonder about it, it was shocking to me that a vehicle could get onto Bourbon Street on such a high-profile night, much less at all ever. In the weeks ahead, do you think this will be something that the community will wrangle with?
The community clearly will wrangle with it, there's no doubt about it, Molly. But I think that when you look at a major metropolitan city like this, and when you look at Canal Street and Bourbon Street, these are major outlets in the city. So I think it's right and proper that they are open. But what we found was that these bodegas were not up, that these barriers were not in place. And that is certainly something that they're going to have to look at, because this killer was able to go around these barriers and go up on the sidewalk. and only because they had patrol cars parked there. That should have never happened. That was a mistake. I think they've admitted it was a mistake, and they're going to have to do something about it in the future.
Ted Williams, thank you for getting there. Thank you for your unique perspective from right there on the ground. We appreciate it, Ted Williams. Dagan, we finally have a little bit of clarity now as to what actually occurred here and who's really responsible.
We do, and what was important was to have a forceful presence and voice from the FBI finally. After initially the special agent in charge from the FBI, it was roughly 3 hours after the attack, I think, yesterday, Paul, and correct me if I'm wrong, the woman got up there and said this is not a terrorist attack, even though there was an ISIS flag in the truck. But it was important to hear from Christopher Rayo, the FBI Deputy Assistant Director, just his posture and the way that he spoke, not just to the American people, anybody in New Orleans, anybody attending the Sugar Bowl, but really the families of the victims and the survivors of this attack about we're on it. Here's what we know. And we will keep you up to date on anything that we find out. No longer other suspects involved in this attack. I go on. So his presence and the way he spoke to the American people was of critical importance. In terms of the digital footprint, what will be interesting, so there are the videos, just 5 alone on the terrorist Facebook page in just a couple of hours, about an hour and a half. 3 phones recovered, 2 laptops were recovered. But in this day and age, following a digital footprint has become so much more difficult because communications apps and devices, operating systems are much more heavily encrypted than they were just a couple of years ago. So that becomes more difficult. And one thing we haven't really talked about much, this terrorist, this dead murderer, worked for Deloitte. Prior to that, he worked at Ernst & Young and Accenture, and he was still employed, as far as we know, at Deloitte. He started there in 2021. So there is a corporate footprint that the FBI and all the other investigators will have to deal with as well, which actually makes it easier for them.
Yeah, the videos that he made on the way to the attack scene is almost a hallmark that we've seen in prior attacks, ISIS-inspired attacks, Rebecca.
Right, and I want to touch on something that Dagan said, too. The digital footprint is really important because that's where he was really telegraphing his radicalization. And this is where we see that though he may not have been directed by ISIS, as we just learned, clearly he was inspired by ISIS. Just this tactic, the terrorist attack, using a vehicle to maximize death, and then stepping out and beginning to shoot innocent bystanders in order to have death by cop. We saw that in Spain, we saw that in France, we saw that in Germany, we've seen that in England. So this is quintessentially an ISIS tactic.
Yeah, and a big question will be if investigators prior to this had missed any red flags. That'll be something that investigators are going to want to get to the bottom of.
And that's the digital footprint that, again, to Dagan's point, is becoming more and more difficult to crack in cases like this. That's why messaging apps like WhatsApp have become so popular because of the encryption in the app. But I want to go back to something that Ted Williams actually said to you about the barriers. Those steel bollards were actually removed to be repaired because the Super Bowl is coming up on February 9th. And so normally they would be in place around Bourbon Street, but that's why they put the vehicles in place. And then he was able to go around and go onto the sidewalk. And we also know that we've learned now from this press conference that he was on the ground and he was doing surveillance. That's one issue. The other is the portrait of this individual, which has really come to light. And the Wall Street Journal doing a big deep dive this morning on him. And it talks about not just the 2 divorces, but also his financial troubles, his emotional vulnerability. You have to consider that if someone is going to be open to being radicalized by ISIS or inspired by ISIS. We'll find that out in the days to come. But he put into a court document that he was about $27,000 behind on his home payment. He was sitting on tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. There was restraining orders between himself and his second wife. At one point, those are all in court filings that have now been unearthed. So when the details come up about this individual, you have to look at the whole picture, and it's a disturbing picture.
Absolutely. And experts often talk about triggering things that send people towards radicalization.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.